Recording in progress. Yep. Thank you. Welcome to the Arts Commission meeting for Monday, April 25th, 2022. And I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting. And I'd also particularly like to welcome our two new commissioners, Commissioner Baltazar and Commissioner Dresser. We're happy to have you here. The Arts Commission meetings have reopened to the public in person effective July 20th, 2021. Face coverings are optional for members of the public who enter city buildings and who have been vaccinated against COVID-19. Arts Commission members will be participating from the council chamber. Public comments could be made in person or remotely via Zoom. As a courtesy and technology permitting, members of the public may continue to provide live remote oral public comment via the city's Zoom video conferencing platform. However, the city cannot guarantee that the public's access to teleconferencing technology will be uninterrupted, and technical difficulties may occur from time to time. Members of the public desiring to provide comments as part of the meeting are encouraged either to submit written comments at least 2 hours prior to the meeting or to attend the meeting in person. To provide a live remote public comment, join the Zoom video conference meeting. The meeting ID for tonight's meeting is 884-730-7094, and the passcode is 9688885. Should you choose not to provide comments but would like to view the meeting, you may do so in one of the following ways: YouTube Live, Comcast Cable Channel 1028, Rossmore Channel 26, Wave Channel 29, AT&T Uverse Channel 99, or live stream online on the city's website. May we now please have the roll call?
Thank you. Commissioner Dresser.
Here.
Commissioner Baltazar.
Here.
Commissioner Meredith.
Here.
And Commissioner Cowdery.
Present.
Chair Klauber is absent today. Thank you.
The next item is public communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for comments on items not on the agenda. Under the Brown Act, the Commission cannot act on items raised during public communications, but may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed, request clarification, or refer the item to staff. Staff, is there any speakers wishing to make public comments?
Commissioner Meredith, we don't have any members of the public wishing to make comment at that time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next item is the consent calendar. Do any of the commissioners have questions on any item on the consent calendar? No. Then may we have since there are no questions or comments, can we call for a motion to approve each of the items on the consent calendar and ask?
You want a separate motion for each? Okay.
Yes.
I move approval of the Arts Commission meetings of July 24th, 2021.
I'll second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Cowdery.
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith.
Yes.
Commissioner Dresser.
Yes.
And Commissioner Baltazar.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
So approval of Arts Commission meetings of February 22nd, 2022. I hear a motion.
I move approval of the Arts Commission meetings of February 22nd, 2022.
I'll second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Cowdery.
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith.
Yes.
Commissioner Dresser.
Yes.
Commissioner Baltazar.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
The last item on the consent calendar is the Community Center for the Arts Annual Report.
And what we're looking for there, Commissioner Meredith, is the Commission's acceptance of the annual report.
I move that we accept the report of the Arts Commission as presented.
I second.
Great. Thank you. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Dresser.
Yes.
Commissioner Baltazar.
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith.
Yes.
And Commissioner Cowdery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Next item is considerations, and the first part of this is the election of chair and vice chair. I'd like to receive any nominations and a second for chair.
I'd like to nominate our Commissioner Meredith for chair.
I second that.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Cowdery,
Yes.
Commissioner Dresser,
Yes.
Commissioner Baltazar,
Yes.
and Commissioner Meredith.
Yes,
Congratulations. Thank you.
thank you. Now I'd like to ask for a nomination and second for vice chair. And I will nominate Commissioner Cowdery for vice chair.
I second that.
I'll call the roll. Chair Meredith,
Yes,
Commissioner Dresser,
Yes.
Commissioner Baltazar,
Yes.
and Commissioner Cowdery.
Yes.
Congratulations. Motion carries 4-0.
and next item is the liaison appointments. About once a year, members of the commission are appointed to different liaison positions. And for this year, for the Library Art Gallery, be Commissioner Baltazar. For the liaising with the Design Review Commission will be Commissioner Dresser. And for the Public Art Committee, it will be Commissioner Klauber, myself, and then I'd also like to appoint Vice Chair Cowdery as an alternate.
Great. Thank you. That does not require a vote. That's just a confirmation from the chair's appointments. Thank you.
Now, the next item is the Lululemon Broadway Plaza exterior wall mural. This is on the Broadway Plaza exterior wall. At this time, I invite staff to provide the presentation.
I'm not sure. Oh, it is live. Okay, there you go. Good evening. I'm Stephen Huss, the Public Art Manager. By way of introduction, the Arts Commission and the Public Art Program kicked off a murals program in 2018, and we've completed 2 murals at the Leisure Center, at the Assembly Hall, multiple murals on private businesses during rebound, 5 temporary murals in Duncan Arcade that will rotate out for new murals, and there are several other pending murals in private development. Now, we encourage private business to include public art even when it is not a requirement. That's a key strategy to building a robust collection of public art and a stimulating high visibility presence of the artwork in Walnut Creek. So it's very gratifying to see that numerous developers and businesses are expressing interest in including public art and murals in particular. So tonight what we have is a mural proposal from Lululemon for the store here in Broadway Plaza in conjunction with an expansive storefront remodel that they're undertaking. This is not a required public art project because the remodel does not trigger the public art requirement per our ordinance. However, the Arts Commission's role is still the review and approval of the mural proposal, as with all murals in the public eye. For elective projects like this, staff does strive to streamline the review process to facilitate and encourage inclusion of public art. The proposal from Lululemon includes the review of a chosen site, a selected artist, Jenny Phillips, and a concept, which are all described in your report packet. Planning staff has reviewed and they support the location proposed. The DRC is not required to review this project in this case because it is not a required art project, and the storefront remodel actually was reviewed on planning staff level only, so it didn't go to DRC. Our Public Art Committee reviewed the concept on April 13. They had a few questions on process and materials, which I asked and later obtained responses that I included in your report. And then the committee approved the project and recommended approval by the Arts Commission. So what we're asking you tonight is to consider the proposal for approval and take a vote, as well as direct any questions and comments to the applicant. The artist is traveling, I understand, and not able to join us tonight, but we do have one of the project design consultants, James Botha, with us, and he flew up just for this presentation. He's here to present the proposal.
Oh, I get control. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, commissioners. Nice to meet you, and happy to be here again in lovely Walnut Creek. And I'm here today to present the proposal for an artist's mural on the facade of the new Lululemon store expansion that's happening in their existing location on Broadway Plaza. Oh, sorry. Yes, so I'm here to present the Lululemon public art mural on their facade of their expanding store in Broadway Plaza. Now, I wanted to start actually with Lululemon's, one of their mission statements is to elevate the world by unleashing the full potential within every one of us. And Lululemon is as many of us probably know, is a health and wellness company that makes products for running and yoga, and it's all about like movement and growth and feeling our full potential through movement and connectivity. So not only do they sell their wares, but they also host events. They have what they call brand ambassadors, which are both local and international athletes that come and do speakings at the stores. And they really see their stores as a way to engage further with the community, which is why they actually wanted to expand the store more to host some of these kinds of events that they love to do. This carries over to their initiative on art. Some of their more pinnacle stores, like this one in Broadway Plaza, they want to engage further with the community by doing it with a local artist. And they seek out artists and they interview them and they select them based on their own core values of unity and diversity, and look for an artist that connects with the brand's vision of movement and connectivity. And so this artist that they found was Jenny Phillips, who's local to the Bay Area and has done a number of public murals. Some of her work here in this area includes the Hotel Zoe in Fisherman's Wharf, the Stanford Children's Hospital, and the Museum of Encaustic Art. So I wanted to first show you the location that we're talking about here. Let's see, do I just press the arrow button? I'm not sure if it's, oh, should I just do this? Oh, you got it? Okay, there we go. So here is the location. It's a corner location right across, right on Broadway Plaza and also right next to Nordstrom. And this is a pedestrian path that takes you from the main parking, one of the main parking structures of the center, to the main shopping street of Broadway Plaza. And what you're looking at here is it's just a sort of a pedestrian pathway that has a cafe that's part of Nordstrom's on one side, and then the storefront of Lululemon on the other. And currently, it's just a wood slat wall. And so what they want to do, since they are redoing this whole facade on the corner to something that they believe is expressive and a new prototype for them as well, they want to introduce a local artist as well to face particularly this pedestrian part where there's a lot more human scale and a lot more of like really seeing it as you're walking by it, and a way to actively engage with the people sitting at the cafe across the street and give them something to look at. So what we're going to do instead of this is, do you have a control? Okay, maybe go to like, I think 4 slides from now. It's slide number 6, I believe. And sorry, I'm just skipping ahead because there's some elevations and stuff, not the most exciting thing. There you go, that's perfect, thank you so much. So this is the artist's concept, Jenny Phillips. And again, her motive was to show and express the variety of color and movement of not just Lululemon, the brand, but also the community that she feels a part of, and a way to just really engage with people and give them something expressive and fun to look at as they're walking by and as they're sitting at the cafe. And it's it's sort of borders around this window that's also a view into the store. So that is the, and I can, let's see, go into more of the artist's concept, the way she describes it. And again, she was really regretful she wasn't able to present the project herself, she would be happy to come back in person or follow up with any kind of video call or phone call that the commission might find necessary. But she wanted to show a gesture of spontaneity and feel the flow and tempo of the everyday, and the rhythm of the seasons, and the sense of the fleeting and tenuous beauty that surrounds all of us. So if you want to maybe go back one slide, I'll just say a little bit more. So this is more on the work of Jenny Phillips and some of the work she's done locally. And you can see sort of a ribbon, a sort of a tie into some of the other work she does. There's always a lot of color. There's always a lot of movement and flow in her work that she wants to interpret into this unique location for on behalf of Lululemon. Okay, so that's I guess all I have for my presentation. I will take any questions from the commission.
I have a question. I'm sorry, what is your role with the company? Are you with the company?
Oh, thank you for asking. I should have said that at the beginning. So I'm James. I am a consultant for the company in design and architecture. I'm their architect of record, and I've had a relationship with Lululemon for the past 4 years. I'm one of their primary architects for the United States, so I've been working on this project and many of their projects with them over the years. So I've really gotten to know them as a brand and know the integrity of their work. And that, for instance, we're doing another store in Oakland that's completely different artist, completely different mural. They really believe in seeking out somebody local and, giving them an opportunity to do some fantastic work. So my role is with Lululemon and not a direct employee of the company, but a consultant that has worked with them for many years.
One more question. Not that we expect graffiti on this beautiful mural, but is it graffiti proof?
There is going to be I guess a shellac that you put on it to make it easier to wipe off any graffiti. And if that doesn't work, the artist is local and they have her on retainer to come back and fix it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the applicant or staff? And I'm going to open the public portion of the item. Does any member of the public wish to provide public comments at this time?
Chair, we don't have any members of the public wishing to make comment at the time.
And then at this time, I'll yes. Okay, since there are no public comments, do the commissioners have any comments that they'd like to make about the project?
I'd be glad to go first. I applaud Lululemon for adding public art where they're not required, so I do appreciate that, and I think the goals that they have will be achieved with this piece of art, and it'll be a nice addition to Broadway Plaza. So.
Well, I think it's going to be a terrific addition to that corridor. It's dark. It can be dark, and so I think the color in there will really liven that up and make it just not a walkway to the restrooms and the parking garage. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
No other comments from the commissioners? Then can I ask for a motion?
I move that we approve the art as presented for the Lululemon in Broadway Plaza.
Second.
Commissioner Dresser, can I just ask you to be a little bit more specific? Sorry. Because we're approving the location, the artist, and the artwork, which is in the staff report. So if you just want to mimic what's in the agenda report, you can do that. So, I appreciate you making the motion.
I move that we approve the recommended location, artist Jenny Phillips, and proposed concept for a mural on the exterior of Lululemon at Broadway Plaza.
Thank you. Was there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Dresser,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cowdery,
Yes.
Commissioner Baltazar,
Yes.
and Chair Meredith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
The next item for consideration is the John Muir Medical Center Outpatient Building Public Art Concepts. And at this time, I'd like to ask staff to make the presentation.
Hello again. This is the third stage in review of this public art and private development project. The first two stages actually occurred at the February 22 Arts Commission special meeting. That was the approval of locations and artists. The third is the actual concepts, which are here for your approval tonight. This is a robust and ambitious program of public art for the new oncology building under construction and the campus around that. The public art projects proposed will tie into existing artwork on the John Muir campus with an overall theme of a walk through nature. As a note, staff provides commissioners with a review checklist at every meeting that includes numerous points to consider as applicable to a specific project, and that checklist was included as an appendix to John Muir this meeting. In terms of the process, as we alluded to before, preparatory to the Arts Commission review, the Public Art Committee, which is composed of 2 commissioners, thoroughly reviews all proposed sites, artists, and concepts, and often asks questions to elicit further detail and clarification that will be important to the Arts Commission's review. And then the Commission's recommendation on if acceptance or rejection is forwarded to the Arts Commission as a firm recommendation on which to vote. In this case, the proposals were looked at on April 13 and recommended to you by the Public Art Committee. The approved artists are Tally Fisher, Barbara Grigudis, and Joe O'Connell, doing business as Creative Machines. They've generated some exciting concepts that are consistent with their past work. And tonight we are asking you to consider these for approval and take a vote to accept, as well as any questions and comments back to the applicant. So we're lucky to have the art consultant again with us, Steve Dolan, to walk us through the concepts. And there are some very interesting samples as well as some fly-through videos. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our other Steve D.
Hello, everybody. Great to see you all again, and welcome to the 2 new members of the Art Council. As I understand, the 2 new members of the council have been given an update and been able to review the previous as far as locations and everything. So in order for expediency through this, because I know we have limited time and we are presenting a lot of artwork, and I know there will be questions, the slideshow kind of does, we don't go over the locations. There's just a real brief, and then we go right into the artwork. So if there's any questions or any confusion, just let me know. All right? You want to go ahead and start? Oh, there we go. Okay, go ahead, move forward to the next slide. So go ahead, next slide. This is just a quick site overview just to give a little bit of grounding on where we are. We're Ignacio Boulevard and, I'm sorry? Oh, okay. And the red circle there is where the new outpatient building is. It's actually under development, and it's already broke ground. They're already in construction, so this was a much easier, or early, excuse me, shot of the location. And those red lines just indicate that there's walking paths and everything that are open to the public, so that was taken into consideration also for the exposure of all this public art. Go ahead, next slide. Go ahead, click through it. Okay, this is the wrong. Yeah. Yeah, this is the wrong. It is an older version. So let's keep going through, because there we go. Let's just go right into that. So these are a little bit different slides, but go ahead, keep moving forward. North and south lobby. It's a 2-story open spaces. These are visible both inside and outside. Go ahead to the next slide. There is an elevation change here from the north lobby, which is lower, to the south lobby, which actually goes a little bit higher. So there will be a transition of movement as you go up through that space. Go ahead to the next. Nature's Experience is Tally's title. Go ahead. Go ahead, skip this, skip this. Okay, so this is an example. Now these are some of these are stills from the video that you'll see in a little bit. So you know, they might not be as clear. The video that you'll see really shows how the collection, the way we look at it as a curated collection. But the video was actually developed or rendered by the architects, and it was also to show their building. So there's a little bit of a slight going towards their building, but that's fine. Okay, go ahead and move to the next. So Tally's piece is suspended artwork, which will actually be through those doors. You can see it very slightly here in the windows above. It'll actually be much more prominent. Go ahead to the next slide. And as you enter, you will actually be going in and looking up into this sculpture. And unfortunately, because this is the old version that was presented a while ago, some of the new slides, a lot of the new slides aren't going to be in here. So go ahead, let's move forward.
Steve, we may have that presentation.
Okay. It would be helpful just because.
Yeah, we're gonna pause for just a moment while we check to see if we have the new presentation.
Can I? So they all have something to do.
Yeah, while we're waiting, Steve will talk about some of the material.
Yeah, so the material that Tally's talking about using, it's a perforated aluminum. They're lightweight, but allows them to be very large. They're suspended. There'll be multicolors, and if I can, I would like to go ahead and let you handle them. Just be a little careful because some of the edges of the pieces are, you know, because it is perforated. So you can kind of see the multicolors. These are all powder coated. The other thing that you can do with them, too, because you'll start to see these pieces are all individually suspended, but when you look at them through one another, they actually can create patterns in other colors and things like that. Yeah, that's still. You can do that. You want to reverse it? We can run the videos first. I can pivot. So. Let's do the larger one, which is going to be the that one. Yeah, there you go. I run that one first. So this is a video that's got. It's about a 1.5-minute video that shows the artwork as well as the building, but what it does show really well is that one of the things that we really wanted to do with this art program was spread artwork throughout the campus. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't all concentrated in the center, that people coming from the parking lots or people walking on the sidewalks, both patients, both visitors, and general public that will use those walking paths, that will walk along Casa Villa. All of those areas are going to have opportunities to see this public art. Ready when you are. Yeah, good. So this is how, when you come in, you're going to be entering. Excuse me, this is the main, what is currently the main entrance. This is the new building over here on the right side. This is playing at a double clip. There on the right, you can kind of see, well, again, without speaking to the art first, Joe's piece you don't get to see as well in this video, but that's in the meditation garden. But you will see both Tally's piece here as we enter into the lobby. You will look up. Now, the computer renders, and especially for movies, the computer renders these as solid panels. That's why I really wanted you to be able to handle the perforated metal and understand that those are going to be perforated. Again, walking through nature, so the idea is you come under a tree canopy as you walk up to this mezzanine. Can you pause it for a second, right about there? That's good, right there, it's good. So again, you come in, you're walking underneath a tree canopy. Of course, it's an abstracted tree canopy, but wanted to emphasize that we're also going to have multi-views of this. If you'll notice on the left side, there's windows that are offices and other patient areas. This mezzanine is going to be an area that people will be able to sit. And then as you come up the stairs, the concept or the idea is you're kind of walking up, almost like you're on a path, walking up into and under the tree and through the tree canopy. Go ahead and move forward. And then as you look, can you stop right there? Again, the computer here is not rendering these as the perforated panels, and the newer presentation actually has photos of these and renderings of these actually in the perforations. But what is important to note here is that both of these will be seen from the south lobby. So you'll be able to, as you come up the stairs, you'll be in the tree canopy, you'll be able to see across to the south lobby. As you come out of the elevator bay, which right now would be where that woman and young child are walking into, you'll be able to see both pieces, either left or right, so they will actually function also as a wayfinding tool. Again, we have to remember that this is an outpatient building, that patients might go through treatments. There might be a little bit of confusion or at least a grogginess from some of these treatments, so we're also trying to support these ideas of being able to wayfind and create different areas that have a different feeling, that have a different view. So as people are there, and if they have to take a break, or if somebody else is there that has driven somebody to go have treatments, they have different places to go and contemplate and rest, so it doesn't always feel like the same area, the same place. Go ahead and move forward. Again, you'll be able to look up through these panels, which you saw when you were holding the perforated panels, and stop right there. And this is what I'm talking about. As you come in, you will actually see these cloud forms and then across to that tree canopy. So you will actually be able to see both of those from this level, and then go ahead and continue. So moving outside the building, as we go outside the building, we're going to be moving, let's see, that would be east, and we'll be moving as we move down east from here. We will be seeing Barbara Gagaitis' piece. It's kind of sprung on you because you didn't get the whole presentation before, but you'll see it here in a second. Barbara's piece is entitled Regeneration, and the inspiration behind her piece was really kind of almost like a seed, kind of new growth, new life, starting to expand and grow. Did that just jump? That just jumped. We just jumped past the whole sculpture. Can you go back? There you go. Keep going a little bit. More. There we go. Go ahead, just stop right there. So this piece here that you're actually seeing, this is an example. This panel that's in front of the podium right here is an example of that piece, and you're more than welcome to come up, or I can. It's heavy, so I don't really want to try to hand it to you, but it'll be constructed of aluminum. It's two individual pieces, so these are two pieces that are separate, but they're creating one sculpture. And you'll see there's a form. If you go ahead and move forward a little bit. Go ahead, stop, yeah. So there you can kind of see how one is askew to the other. And the idea behind that is what we're doing is, instead of two pieces being perfectly symmetrical, we wanted it to be open, so it'll be a little bit more open to the public. And also it'll create another viewing angle. Yeah, you can keep going forward. And you'll see that you can actually, you'll be able to see this piece from the lower parking areas You'll be able to see it from Casa Villa. It'll be a very prominent piece. This piece is 20 feet tall. It'll sit on a footing that is 1 foot above grade. We do that to protect the base of the sculpture from skateboarders, all kinds of things, weed whackers, all kinds of things. You can go ahead and stop. That's the end of it, really. And that brings you back to Tally's piece. The one piece that you didn't see in here is the meditation garden. So there is a second video, but I would prefer to go to the presentation if in fact it is available. Okay. Did anybody have any questions up to this point? I mean, I know it seems like it's kind of like, but
I'm interested in the finish on that. Is that the same burnished finish that the finished sculpture will be?
yes, it's what it is it's actually like a sandblasted finish, a very light stipple to it. The idea behind that is it's not super reflective, but it's reflective enough to pick up some of the surrounding area. But because Barbara's piece also has the light that's in it and everything else, we didn't want it to be too reflective from the ambient light that's there. So it will glow, but it won't really reflect, if that makes sense. It'll capture light, but won't really. The other thing that's really nice about the sandblasted is if in case there's ever any graffiti or anything like that, that's how you would remove it. You'd sandblast it. So it would, in essence, just you'd be able to create the same texture. You wouldn't end up having to try to paint or match a powder coating or anything like that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions from the commissioner at this point?
I have questions, but I'm going to wait till after the presentation.
It's the same one? Okay, let's just do it. We'll go through it. Go ahead and move through.
That should be the right one, because that is the 42522.
Yeah, this is the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that, if it does it, I'll tell you in about 10 seconds if it is. Because in the pre-meeting that we had, I had the proper date on it too.
Go ahead.
Go ahead and move forward. Move forward. This is the new one, perfect. Okay, I can tell because it had the light. So, guiding principles, a walk through nature. I'm going to move pretty quick here just because we lost a little time. So peaceful, calm, positive, design that promotes health, wellness, and inspiration. We wanted it to have a cohesive aesthetic throughout all of the campus, meaning the existing campus and the new building here. Intuitive wayfinding was a big part of it. We wanted to optimize the views both for the public and patients. Be visible during day and night through incorporated and well-designed lighting. Go ahead, move forward. Go ahead. So again, all right, no, you can go ahead and move forward right there. So the brown area there kind of shows you the elevation. I know there was some confusion in the earlier when we were talking location, so I just wanted to show you kind of how the elevation moves from one level up to the next. Go ahead and move forward. Move forward. So this is a little bit more of a zoomed in, so you really start to see as you approach. Again, the video itself was taken from the street, you know, kind of further back and highlighting the building. So go ahead and move forward. But as this one shows, you can see a little bit more of the transparency and how the pieces will overlay each other. Also, I'd like to point out how the artwork is going to actually extend out over the staircase. Well, obviously it won't be touchable, but that'll give you a feeling that you're immersed by it a little bit. There will be a little bit more of an immersive feeling. Go ahead, move forward. And this is just kind of as you would walk up the stairs, you kind of be able to see into the pieces. Go ahead. Again, this is where we were before, so looking back over the mezzanine. Go ahead and move forward. Now this is a much better representation of the transparency that you'll see in those cloud forms at the top there. Go ahead and move one forward. And this again is a much better view or idea of this transparency. So there's a density and a color change that you get when these panels overlap each other. So as you move through, it'll almost give that same illusion as clouds shifting and moving over you. Go ahead, move forward. This is what the view would look like from above in these upper offices and patient areas. So we took into consideration how you will be looking down into this artwork also. Go ahead and move forward. And these panels will each be approximately 6 to 8 feet long. They can be as wide as 4 feet. The computer renders these in very flat way, but the actual panels themselves will curve as much as 3 or 4 feet going up, and might even have like an S curve where they can go up on the front and tail off in the back. A lot of that is also determined by Tally in the installation. They're flexible, so she can do that. They aren't rigid forms. So she likes to do that so she knows she can fill the space in a balanced way and get great visibility both from the exterior and from the interior. Go ahead and move forward. And this is an example. Now, again, this is an early computer rendering kind of showing what these cloud forms from the outside at night. So with this, it's very difficult for the computers to render transparency and luminosity. The way they render the transparency is they actually do opacity and cut it down, so you lose all of the density and color. So to the right there is an actual true installation, and that's the best thing that we can really look. Anybody can take a computer rendering and bump it up and make it look like something it's not, but this piece right here that you're seeing is going to be lit the very similar style. The piece on the right is showing just spotlighting. We've actually got special lighting that is more of a strip lighting that'll give a nice even lighting that'll come down through those pieces. Go ahead to the next slide. And then this is a little talk about the materials, which is where I would have handed out the samples before. Powder coated multiple colors, stainless steel rods. That's on the lower piece. There will be stainless steel rods holding the leaf forms to mimic kind of a tree branch, and it'll also limit the amount of wires that are going to be coming down, because to put wires on each one of those leaves would have made it really busy. There are specific lighting installed into the ceiling to allow the artwork to pop and have a strong visible appearance from both outside and inside. The maintenance will be performed by the JMH Facilities Department. It's basically all it takes is a light dusting. There's nothing really too much to them. It can be done either with a feather duster, or it can also be done with a little compressed air. And then JMH will have a maintenance contract with the artist, so the artist will be as aware, and if anything happens that's beyond the scope of what JMH can handle, the artist will come out and repair the work. Okay, let's go to the next. Or do you want to do it that way, or do you want me to move through it, or do you want to do questions?
Well, we just move forward.
Okay, okay. And this is another example. This is just kind of a true installation showing, again, that transparency, and you can see how much more color you really do see, how much more pop you see. This is a similar installation. This is actually at the Las Vegas International Airport. Go ahead and move forward. And this, again, is showing the gradation of color, which is another thing that Tally will do. So she will actually gradate on one panel, so it will go from one color to another, and you saw that on the yellow and green panel. So this particular one, she showed open leaf forms. She's not sure if she's going to do those or not, but again, that's as she works on the space and works with it, she might do that, but she's not seen that because that's not truly like a leaf form. Usually they don't have a perfect cutout in the center. But what I really wanted to point out also is that this particular piece has no special lighting. This is all the ambient lighting that's within that space. Now, the ambient lighting includes lights from above that come down and come through. The picture on the left is looking up into the piece, and the picture on the right is looking from a bridgeway down into the piece. So you can see they have a lot of light, they reflect a lot of light, they have a lot of color. Go ahead. And this is just an example of different installations that she's done from the exterior at night, so you can see how you can see these colors and how they pop, and you see the forms and shapes. All right, let's go ahead and move forward. So Barbara Gagaitis, go ahead and move forward. This is at the southeast entry. Right there on the corner, we see the red dot on La Casa Villa, and yet to be named street that goes into parking that'll be on the right, and that lower level of parking. It was asked before if there was going to be any solar panels, and there's not any solar panels intended at this time. Go ahead and move forward. Regeneration is the title for this piece. Go ahead and move forward. So this is that same piece, and this is kind of showing that same thing I was trying to explain through the video, where you have these two forms. They're independent forms, but they do have a symmetry to them. There's a dialogue between them, but there are skews slightly. So the picture on the left would be what would be facing more towards La Casa Villa and that corner, and then as you kind of rotate around, you'll see that the picture on the right would be as if you were directly behind it. So it creates kind of a different, at least a different visual impact. These pieces will be lit from inside, which you'll see coming up here. Go ahead and move forward. This is a computer rendering on the right, again showing that glow that computer renderings show, but the idea being is that these pieces will be illuminated at night. This is also showing no ambient light. There will be quite a bit of ambient light there, and you'll see in some of the actual pieces that she's done how these pieces work really well with both ambient light and in a dark area. But what I wanted to point out here is that it'll be 20 foot tall again, and then 1 foot footing, so total height of 21 feet. Go ahead and move forward. And then this is just kind of, some of these are stills of that same video, so we can kind of move through them. Go ahead and move forward. But what I wanted to point out here, go ahead, Matt. What I wanted to point out here is one of the things that we did with this location is we worked with the landscape architects to create an area that defines a space around the sculpture, and it gives people an area to go sit, contemplate, rest, and it also can be pick me up. You'll see the big sculpture right here. They can have lunch there, so you'll see a little bit more of that when we get into the landscape portion of it. Go ahead and move forward. And this is just showing from an earlier rendering, so this is just showing it in a flower bed. This is the artist's earlier rendering, but showing what the piece would look like illuminated at night. That street light, I believe, is still there, but it's actually moved in a little bit, but we will get some light from that. Go ahead and move forward. So this is what gives you a better idea from, and if you were to go straight, or I guess diagonally, on the left side all the way up, that would be La Casa Villa. To the right is the street, the new street yet to be named, that's bringing you down into the parking area. So you can see, though, how we've created this almost park-like little setting for people to go into, sit, have lunch, relax, enjoy the sculpture. The other thing is with sculpture like this is if you put it in landscape, and people can't see it from all angles if they don't have access to somehow. And that was something that was really important. We wanted to make sure people could go in and be able to walk around the sculpture and get a feeling for the whole sculpture. Go ahead and move forward. And so this is some shots just showing the visibility of. Go ahead. Again, here from the corner. And this would be if you were coming from that lower parking lot, kind of walking up. Go ahead, one more. There you go. So you can go back, actually, if you want. So water jet aluminum burnished surface to reflect surroundings the way we were talking about. It's actually a sandblasted. Integrated LED lighting to create an interior illumination that glows. Lighting will be independently controlled by an atomic clock and fully adjustable, meaning that this light will not just go on with landscape lighting and go off, or go on 1 hour before or off. We can actually adjust independently this sculpture to go on at any time we want and to go off at any time we want. In this particular location, it's probably not as important, but in the next presentation, you'll probably see why we're doing that with these two pieces, because certain times a year, obviously, it's going to have more light much earlier. Certain times a year, it's going to have less light, and it'll be darker much earlier. So go ahead and move forward. Oh, I'm sorry, go back for 1 second. Maintenance, same thing, just to be performed by JMA facilities. A light washing down with soapy water. Typically, I tell people to use an extended RV brush. They have soft bristles. They extend up. They go up over 24 feet, and you can just kind of brush it down as needed. LED lighting bulbs changed through an access panel if needed. That can actually be performed by JMH, but if they is anything that can't be performed or is outside the scope of John Muir's facilities department, they also are going to have a contract with the artist that can come out and perform any maintenance, and that would of course be something like if graffiti or something like that, that would be something that we would take care of that way. Go ahead and move forward. These are live examples, and you can see how the computer typically renders it as a glowing light. But what you really see here, especially with the piece on the right, is there's that deep illumination in the middle. But you'll notice that the inside edge of that piece is reflecting the light from the other side. So what happens is you create this kind of glow in the middle, and that's the same thing that'll happen with the piece that we're presenting, is that it's not just going to be an even illumination everywhere. It's going to be illuminated as you see around the outer part of that human head form. But if you look at the inside, you can see how that panel facing us has a really strong green glow. That's because the light from the opposing side is coming across. And so you're going to get that glow. And if you imagine that seed pod that we're calling, that'll actually create a really nice glow in the center that'll be a little bit more prominent, a little warmer, and kind of give a different feeling, so it's not going to be just a simple even illumination. Go ahead and move forward. This kind of gives you an idea, looking straight on, you can kind of still see how that green, how that strong that green light in this case is. Go ahead and move forward. And then this is a different color light, but again, the same effects. But what I also wanted to point out is the piece on the right, or it's the same piece, but on the right, what you're seeing is that piece lit during the day. And you'll see that the light can be on during the day and have an effect, but it doesn't necessarily have to be on. These pieces will stand on their own without lighting, so if there is a power outage or something happens to electrical and it's down for 2 or 3 weeks, these pieces will still be prominent. They still will look great. It's almost like a fountain. That's one of my rules with a fountain, is if you're going to have a fountain or something that has water, if the water goes off, especially in California, that it still really works as an independent sculpture. And that's kind of what we're looking at for this. Go ahead and move forward. So we're moving on to Joe O'Connell. Go ahead. So this is in a meditation garden area. Go ahead, next slide. And this kind of gives you an idea looking down. The red arrows there are indicating kind of the public access coming off the sidewalks or from the front of the building, so anyone from the public can come in and view that. And the lower red shaded area is the wall that we're talking about down there, if you can see it on the lower left. Go ahead, move forward. Uplifting together. Go ahead, move. So this piece here is actually, I have a sample up here that I'm going to step away for a second and go ahead, plug in, and you guys can see. Now I know there was some, wait till I get down. I know there was some concern about artwork that relies on lighting. One of the things that I'd like to point out is this piece actually does not rely on the lighting. The lighting is just something that actually came out after the piece was selected. Originally, the piece was going to have just kind of standard lighting that would be from the outside shining on the face of it. But the artist really thought that it could be interesting to try to backlight it, so we would get a little bit more illumination coming through both the colored Lexan panels as well as reflective off the wall. That's an uneven surface that we have back there, so you're still, and some of it's fabric, so you're not getting a perfectly even feel of how it would be. But if you look at the screen, you can kind of see this is the piece during the day. Go ahead and move forward. Again, a different angle. What I wanted to point out here is you'll see that this is an area, again, that people will be able to come into. We created another environment, maybe a little bit different feel, where people can come in, relax, have a little respite, but feel like they're in a different place, they're having a different experience. And also on the right, the sidewalk, I wanted to point out the trees there. The trees will have these gaps, so as people are walking, and those trees are also shade trees that are going to be manicured and kept, so the branches, because you can see they'll go over the sidewalk, so the pruning of those trees will be kept high, so it'll actually allow visibility of this as you're walking along that sidewalk. Go ahead and move forward. And that's a little bit better idea of the sidewalk, but it didn't show the gaps, which is why I had the other one in there. This piece is actually made from aluminum. It will have more of a reflective surface to capture some of that light. And these Lexan panels are multicolored, as you can see what's up there. Go ahead and move forward. And this is looking back out towards the steps that give public access. If you look there, you can see somebody walking up the steps in the kind of upper left side. So if you're drawn, exactly. So if you're drawn into the space and you wanted to get a better look at the sculpture, it's completely accessible. Go ahead and move forward. This is kind of a twilight view. Again, computers render things differently. Go ahead and move forward. And then this gives an idea of what it would look like at night, where you get this kind of reverse effect. The one thing I want to point out on this is kind of a light study on the sculpture itself. If you notice, there's no lights on in the building. There's no ambient light coming from any street lights or anything else, and those will always be on. So there will be more ambient light on the face of it. What we were trying to get with this, the artist was trying to accomplish with this was to just get a nice even pattern of lighting behind the piece, so it gives a two-dimension feel. You feel like it's actually a little bit off the wall, and it has a little glow behind it. Go ahead and move forward. So this is kind of an example where if you had more of that ambient lighting, where you had a street light, you can see that pole right there to the left, and the building lights, you're going to get a lot more light out into that area. That area will have, and this finish, as you can see up there, it's a much more reflective finish. So it will catch the light, will not reflect the light, so it's not going to make reflections for either patients' cars or anything like that, but will catch the light quite a bit more. Go ahead and move forward. And this is kind of showing it, again, there's that entry going down into the public access part of it and the trees. Go ahead and move forward. And then this is a shadow study. I thought it was a great idea. It was suggested that maybe we could look at because of where this location is, how that area will be lit throughout the different times of year. So this is at 3 p.m. Top left is the spring equinox, so it shows how the light would be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 p.m. summer solstice, you see there's quite a bit more light, and then you get into the 3 p.m. winter solstice, and it's quite a bit less light. So again, go ahead. Oh, and then, I'm sorry, then on the right there, it's showing the street lights that are also going to be along that. That's the part of the street lighting plan. Go ahead and move forward. So the materials, again, water jet cut aluminum, a more reflective surface to capture colors, integrated lighting behind to set the artwork apart from the wall and create slightly reversed image at night. The lighting, again, will be on an independent atomic clock, and this is where it's even more important because, say, for instance, in the winter, even though that was a 3 p.m. study, it could really be still dark at 1 p.m. And so what we can do is have every part of the season, it doesn't have to be the exact same time. So there will be some initial programming and then there will be adjustment, but what can happen is if in the winter we're finding that at 12 noon, the light, it's just too dark down there. We can have the lights adjusted so they'll start coming on or they'll be on at 12 noon. In the summertime, when we don't need to use the lights as much, we can actually have the lights come on an hour or two before sunset. So it's completely independent, day by day, hour by hour if need be. So the piece will be obviously anchored to the retaining wall. And maintenance, again, light washing down, soapy water, extended RV brush, keep it kind of clean, LED bulbs. Now in this case, these bulbs, that would be something that the artist would do because these are actually like a strip light. It's not just a bulb that you would simply, and there's splices and things like that. So JMH is going to have a contract with the artist for maintenance work beyond the facilities department's scope. Go ahead. I think that's it. Okay. I know it was a lot to take in.
All right, thank you very much. Now we can take questions for the applicant or staff. Would like to go first?
I'll ask a few. So on Tally's piece, you said there was going to be variation in color on the mesh. Is that for both pieces or just for the?
Yeah, it could be or it could not be. At Tally, it's really, that's the artist's. She's planning on doing it, but if she feels it makes it too busy, she might reduce it. But there will definitely be some on both pieces.
Okay.
It's just that's part of the artist's voice.
All right, and then the lighting for Barbara's piece, I think when we had our public art subcommittee meeting, you said that the colors could vary? With the
Yes,
light?
that, we're exploring that, yes. JMH wants to do that. Barbara can do that. We're seeing if it's within the budget constraints of it. If not, then it would be a color that the artist would select.
Choose. I just want to make sure that if they do vary the colors, that it's consistent with each side, and they don't use it to get.
Oh, no, it wouldn't be.
or anything like that.
It would be way too expensive to do that, because you would actually have to have two controllers
Okay,
to
good,
do that. So
good.
there's only going to be one controller, and it would be simply just to change the light for, and I doubt very much it would be something that would be, I don't think John Muir wants to have lights that are changing throughout the night.
Okay,
So-
good. All right. That was my questions. Very thorough presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a lot of questions, sorry.
Okay, no problem.
I go to Tally's piece. The color of the clouds, if I'm a cancer patient, and I'm at John Muir Hospital in the oncology department, and I come out of the elevator and see the color of the clouds as presented when I look up, they are not an uplifting color for me. They're kind of dark clouds. So I'm concerned about the color of the clouds, and I'd like to, I guess, talk to the artist about what the cloud colors are going to be, so when a cancer patient comes out, they can go, I feel uplifted by the cloud colors.
Some of these panels that you saw here, these blues, can I?
Yeah, in the pictures, a lot of them show brown.
Exactly, and again, that's the computer rendering. But
Okay.
these, I'm going to take the green.
Take the green
Green's
out.
And that is the colors, some of them. Now, there
Okay.
might be, there might even be a little bit more of a, like a maroon color or a red in there.
Okay.
All the colors, all of the colors were inspired by the sunrise, a photo of the sunrise behind Mount Diablo. And when the sunrise comes up, you have these intense purples and oranges and reds and those colors. So it was more along those lines as compared to just white or,
I appreciate the color. I just want to make sure that they're not brown clouds.
Yeah, no.
but-
Again, that's the computer's rendering of it,
Okay.
especially when they show it in solid colors. It looks really,
Okay, good. Will you just mention that to her as well, too, that
Yeah,
we want
absolutely.
uplifting colors? In slide 58 of the original package that we got, it showed blue and white clouds behind the hanging. Is that a window? Is that looking
that's a
out
window.
a window?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Other than that, I really like Tally's piece. Oh, will the Tally's piece move at all?
It will, no, it won't move, but it's what I call passively kinetic, because as you walk under it, you're going to be shifting, so you're going to be looking through two panels, and so, or maybe as many as 3 panels, and so it will shift. It has the ability to move, so the way it works is the wires come down and they attach through 2 or possibly 3 pieces, and what that does is triangulate the piece. So if there was an earthquake or anything, these won't swing. They act as one unit, so they can sway, but the pieces themselves won't move. Like when the doors open, the wind comes in, they might move just slightly, but they're not meant to.
They're not designed to be any kind of mobile effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, on Barbara's piece, I sure wish Barbara's piece was in a different location in downtown Walnut Creek. It's spectacular, and I feel like it's going to get kind of lost where it is, but I understand we've already voted for the artist, the location, and the concept right there, so it is what it is. I'm happy to see that it's a burnished aluminum, because if it wasn't, I think it's going to be blinding to look at it. I went to the location today, I went to the top of the parking garage just to kind of see how everything sits. It's a south-facing location for this sculpture, and it's going to have a lot of sun on it all day long. Even with the burnished aluminum, I'm afraid it's going to be kind of a washout in terms of just so much sun on it, and it's such a light color. When you just mentioned that there might be the lights inside it on during the day, that might be a nice way so it actually is seen during the day.
Yeah,
So I think I'm in favor of the LED, some kind of color light being on during the day so you can see the sculpture.
yeah. And that's something that, again, we have complete adjustability with that atomic clock. So if we find that that is the case, you have to remember there's also quite a few hills there. So it's going to be later in the day, but when that starts to get that direct sunlight. But at certain times of the year, you're absolutely right. It's going to be
It's gonna
coming
be
in.
brutal.
So that could all be adjusted.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Based on that.
I'm disappointed, I'm gonna look to the John Muir people, I'm disappointed that John Muir has put in so much surface parking lots around this building. They're everywhere. So when you're looking at Barbara's Piece, there's cars going by to go into one of the entrance. When you're in the meditation garden, you're right below the roundabout to go into the parking garage. It's like parking is everywhere. I'm not sure how people are gonna get a quiet moment to actually enjoy these pieces with how many cars are moving about them. Again, that's already been done, can't do anything about it. I also noticed so at night, I was thinking about who's gonna be able to see this at night, because it's a phenomenal piece and it's gonna be beautifully lit. It sits down a bit, and La Casa Villa is gonna sit above it, and there's trees lining La Casa Villa. There's also trees that look like they're going to line the drive into one of the entrances. How is anyone gonna see this at night from La Casa Villa? Because this is in an outpatient facility, people aren't staying there at night.
Right. You'll be able to see it if you look, if you can go back to the slides. No, I'm sorry, go forward. Forward. Again. Right there. Go back. So if you look at this photo right here, La Casa Villa, that crosswalk is going straight up to La Casa Villa. So we actually removed trees on that corner so it would not block that. If you look right there, that lamp that's there, there was a tree that was by it. That tree is actually set back much further. So from La Casa Villa, you will be able to see this piece. Remember, it's a 20-foot sculpture. That's quite a bit. 20 feet, the top of that sculpture will be about level, might even be a couple feet above level with that sidewalk. So it's going to be a prominent piece. And I do really believe, because then you're also going to have that whole wide area that is this street where there's going to be nothing to block it. So you're right from certain angles, but you can't take down all the trees. So
Yeah, I'm glad for the trees. Again, I wish this were in downtown Walnut Creek, because it's gonna be spectacular.
it is going to be spectacular. Thank you.
I think those are my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Balthasar, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that'd like to make comments?
Chair, we do not have any members of the public wishing to make comment online, but I believe we may have a comment in the audience.
Good evening, my former fellow commissioners. It's kind of fun to be on this side of the dais. It's early in the process with these artworks, and so I wanted to bring attention to something that I've noticed and share it with you. I'm speaking tonight as a resident, but my experience as an art commissioner just wouldn't let me stay home, so here I am. I'm speaking about regeneration and the placement of the pieces. I asked Steve today to check on this. I don't know if you can go back to pages in our packet here, pages about 75 to 78, to look at the placement of the two pieces. I was very concerned that they would be facing each other and it would be somewhat static. And Steve confirmed with me, for me today, that the pieces will actually not be just facing each other. One will be slightly slanted outward. And I wanted to call your attention to this because I think it's a crucial detail. And I think that it makes a difference to enable this piece to have a lot of tension, maybe a little bit of mystery, and so that placement is really crucial. And things can happen in public art, especially when an artist is from out of town and the installation comes along and maybe it doesn't get quite the positioning that it should be. So I wanted to make sure that throughout the process, we're aware of the fact that the installation is really crucial. I understand that positioning is her intention. So, and okay, that's great. That makes me feel better. I do feel that the piece is very elegant and graceful, and that we need to be really careful with how much color, how bright, how long it's on the piece. Oh, that must be my timer, huh? Okay, thank you very much.
Jane, can you pull out a card, a speaker card?
Are there any other comments from the public that,
No, we have no more comments. Thank you, Chair.
all right, thank you. All right, like, open it up now to the commission for any comments about the proposal.
I think the art is just beautiful, all four pieces. I'm looking forward to them being installed. Again, I wish they were all in downtown Walnut Creek, because I'm hoping not to go to John Muir Hospital very often, especially this building, but it looks like I'm going to have to make special visits there just to see this art. Thank you.
Thank you.
The curiosity that I have is I think that the experience between the three artists is really immersive and it's extremely thoughtful. And my father, for some time, was in the old Yosemite building, so it is much better not to go down into a dungeon for oncology. Why is there no solar is one big question that's not for this group. But a lot of light and art and this extreme thoughtfulness for the art, and then how does that actually work with the whole building and the community that is there in terms of energy and trees that are coming down and things of that nature. But looks great.
Thank you.
I think that, oops, I feel my fellow commissioners have said what I was going to say, that I think it's a well-curated collection of art for the place, and I look forward to actually seeing it put in and see what colors actually come to be for the clouds especially. So thank you for all your work on it.
Absolutely.
And I'll second all the comments from other commissioners, but I also like, this is really going to, John Muir is a very large part of the community, the Walnut Creek community, but not only that, it's an important regional facility. So I think this art will also not only enhance the community, it'll also be important for the region. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to move to approve the proposed public art concepts by Tally Fisher, Barbara, I'm going to say it wrong, Grigaitis, and Joe O'Connell for the John Muir Medical Center Outpatient Building Project.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. A roll call. Vice Chair Cowdery,
Yes.
Commissioner Baltazar,
Yes.
Commissioner Dresser,
Yes.
and Chair Meredith.
Yes.
Motion approved 4-0. I'll also add from staff's perspective that we appreciate that John Muir has gone above and beyond the requirement for this project. And so thank you to the John Muir team for that. John Muir has been a great partner to us, and we appreciate continuing work with your team. So thank you all.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to the next item. For commission consideration, update to the fees and charges schedule. Some staff can provide a presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Sandra Naughton, and I'm the Arts and Rec Business Manager. I work in the admin office with Kevin and Cassie and Elisa. It's nice to see you this evening. I'm here to talk about some proposed changes to our fees and charges schedule. And I'll give a little bit of background. I know we have some new commissioners just about how our fees and charges works. So when our department goes through our budget development process, we are looking at both kind of our revenue side of things as well as our expenses. And in Arts and Rec, all of our programs and services are funded both by earned revenue, the fees that we charge users of those services, and also the general fund. And we have cost recovery goals for each of our different programs and services. So as we go through our budget development process, we also look at what are those fees and charges that we're charging for various things, whether it's a picnic table rental, admission to our pool, or user fees at the Leisure Center, or for tickets to our center rep shows. So as we go through the budget process, we're typically kind of looking at other information, whether it's other like agencies that offer those services and programs or market information, to inform kind of how we set our fees and charges. And as we develop our budget, we propose any changes to our fees and charges. And the way that we typically do that is we set up a schedule that has a range. So we'll say, for example, pool fees will range from this dollar amount to this dollar amount for this fiscal year. And then that allows the department staff to set an actual fee somewhere within that range. So it provides some predictability to user groups and to others and to the public, but also provides the department flexibility to kind of adjust fees within that range. So when we developed our last budget for this fiscal year and for next fiscal year, because we're in a 2-year budget cycle, we had proposed some changes to our fees and charges. And our process is typically that we bring the arts-related fees and charges to this commission and ask for your recommendation. And then if it's adjusted or edited anyways, we work on that, and then it gets forwarded to the city council for their final approval. And then our recreation-related fees go similarly to the pros commission and then to the city council. So we are in the middle of a 2-year cycle. So we did bring some changes back to this commission back in May of 2021, which were recommended and went on to city council and were adopted. But since that time, we have come to identify a couple of changes that we wanted to talk to you about tonight that we would like to ask for your recommendation about these changes to the fees and charges. And if you recommend them, then they would move on to city council to be formally adopted. So on the next slide, this just outlines the changes that we're talking about tonight are just impacting the Leisure Center and Center Rep. So in the Leisure Center, we are proposing to add a few new fee categories to some things that have come to the surface as being pretty intensive in terms of staff time, but that there's not currently a fee category for us to recoup any of that staff time that's spent on those services. So the first is under the section for hourly ticket office services. It's basically a fee per hour for non-standard price builds or other special requests. So this would be typically when a producing agency comes to the Leisure Center, we have a set of fees and charges that we talk to them about to see what they're interested in, what services. We currently, among that menu of services that we offer, we don't have basically this kind of hourly ticket office charge, which we would like to add because sometimes some of our clients are requesting things that are pretty complex and time intensive and above. This would allow us to recoup those costs. So that's the first proposal in terms of a change. And then we have a few changes to a category that's called for our events that are not held at the Leisure Center. So while most of our clients are coming to us to use the theaters in the Leisure Center, we do have some clients that come to us just to use our ticket office services, but are not actually holding their event at the Leisure Center. So it might be a dance company who's doing a recital and would like to have the portion of the process where you're selling tickets and that sort of thing happen through the Leisure Center, even though it'll be at their dance rehearsal space. So for these types of events, we're proposing adding 2 new categories. One is called this virtual event additional qualifier, which is essentially adding kind of for each of our virtual events, which have become much more popular, as you might imagine, during the pandemic. This is basically adding a fee for any additional web pages that get built. So some of the clients that ask us to sell tickets for virtual events, they might have a landing page or a web page for kind of their main clients, but then if they, let's say, are working on some outreach goals and they're offering a certain type of performance to school groups or to some other restricted group, they want to have an additional web page that's specific to that audience. And this is basically creating a fee category for us to charge for that additional service of the additional web page. And then the third new fee under this section is called the additional access pricing option. And this is really to capture those requests for pricing structures that are much more complex than the standard, which might be dependent on the times of the day or the days of the week or certain, again, target groups that they're trying to set a certain pricing structure for. So again, all of these new categories really relate to the ability for us to charge fees when there is amount of staff time that's above and beyond kind of the normal staff time for services. And then the last change related to the Leisure Center is again for those events that are not actually held at the Leisure Center, but they're just using our ticket office services. And this is to change the way that we charge the fee for that kind of a service. So instead of what currently is just based on the number of seats sold, we'd like to change it so there's both a flat fee so that we recoup our costs, because whether it's a small event or a large event, we have a certain amount of staff time just to create the pricing structure and make the changes in our system, et cetera. But so that the new proposed approach would be both a flat fee and then the hire of either 7% of the gross revenue from the ticket sales for that event or an additional $300. And this pricing structure for these events that aren't held at Leisure Center, these changes that we're proposing are to really have the structure match what we do at the Leisure Center. So for most of our fees and charges for theaters at the Leisure Center are based on kind of a combination of both a flat fee and then the greater of either sales revenue or some floor of a flat fee. And this is just trying to mirror that structure for these events as well. So those are the 4 changes that we're proposing at the Leisure Center. And then on the next slide, we are also proposing one change in center rep. And that is essentially to change the individual ticket sale, the bottom of that scale, to 0, because we'd like to, in the next season, for next fiscal year, fiscal 23, adopt a pay what you can model for specifically the preview shows of each of our center rep shows. And the preview shows are typically highly discounted currently. And the reason they're discounted is they're the first live performances of the run. And we would like to adopt go beyond just having discounted tickets and have it be a pay what you can model for 2 reasons. One is to increase the accessibility of the productions, because that would align with some recommendations that recently came out of the strategic plan around how to enhance and diversify our audience. But also it aligns really well with our department's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we think this will be a change that will help us bring hopefully new audiences into Center Rep, as well as bring more folks into some of the Center Rep productions that we're offering. So the change would just be taking, again, the bottom of the scale and bringing it to 0 for this pay what you can model. So those are the proposed changes, both in Center Rep and in the Leisure Center, that we wanted to bring to your attention tonight. Wanted to see if you have any questions about those changes.
Any questions from the commissioners?
I have a question. Do you believe that the fee increases or new fee categories are enough to cover your staff expenses?
Yes, we do. You can see for the ticket office fees, we have the ranges are pretty large. So it's from $50 to $110 or $85 to $110, and we think that those will cover our costs on a per hour basis.
Any other questions? No? Are there comments from the public? Do we have any public comments?
Chair, we do not have any public comments.
Thank you. All right. Any comments from the commissioners?
I really appreciate the pay what you can change. I hope that does really accomplish the goals, but it's a great idea.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited.
Somebody like to make a motion?
I'm going to give it a try. I move that we accept the proposed changes to the fees and charges scheduled for Leisure Center and the Center Rep programs for fiscal year 22 and 23, and recommend forwarding these items to the City Council for approval.
Any seconds?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Dresser,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cowdery,
Yes.
Commissioner Baltazar,
Yes.
and Chair Meredith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, commissioners.
The next item is reports on projects, and the first is the Public Art Projects Report from staff.
Hello. Hello. Quite a bit to report on. It's been a while, so I'm going to try to move on through quickly, but it's quite a bit of information. So the one, maybe the hardest thing to report about is the Rudney Plaza project. So I just want to recap quickly. So an artist named Mark Fornez, who works as a company called The Very Many, was selected through a public review process, diligent process, and given the highest recommendation by the panel. And when we came to the Arts Commission, where Fornez was approved, the commission declined to approve any alternates. So what we really discovered, and I reported at the last meeting, is that Rudney Plaza at the Lesher has very complex programmatic uses and requirements, and the plaza really has been found not to be viable as a location for a large permanent piece. There are significant concerns about access to the building, pedestrian flow, it's necessary space for essential events that might be impeded, performances and galas and other things. So that's unfortunate. The staff and the commission, I believe, and other stakeholders as well are interested in continuing to work with Mark Fornez. And there was some consideration of the sidewalk area outside the Lesher between California Boulevard and the main entrance as a potential new site. But after consulting with the artists, this location was really not of interest and would be, I think, unsatisfactory as an alternate. Going forward, the artist and his team are very interested, though, in continuing to work with us to look at creating a project for Walnut Creek. They would like to work together to find another similarly prominent and important location. And they, I have an actual quote from them: "Please send our regards to the Arts Commission and convey our assurance and continued interest." So what we have right now is an open-ended arrangement with them. I believe that they have a couple of pending projects in the Bay Area, but unfortunately they're not at a stage where they physically need to be here anytime in the near future. I was hoping to piggyback onto a visit they would be doing anyway. But right now they are, I think they're fairly backed up with active projects and demand, and they asked us to give them a month or so to re-engage the conversation about this. So what staff really does not recommend any further consideration of the Lesher Plaza proper as a site for landmark or signature piece of art. And this is not an agendized item tonight, so we can't really talk at length about it, but what we propose to do is return to your next regularly scheduled meeting and recommend, one, formally concluding the process for Rudney Plaza, closing it out without a piece of work, moving the small amount of money that was generated by the public art, by the construction for public art on the plaza to the Public Art Fund, and reallocating the larger portion of funds that we had set aside for a new site to be determined to work with Mark Fornez. And this would be something that would be a brainstorm with staff and the commission about possible locations for another piece of art by those folks. So we want to bring that back as a report to you, and you'll have plenty of time at that point in time to debate that issue. That's our position on that. Moving on to brighter things, Mona Caron has completed her mural in the Lesher Courtyard. Who's seen it? Who's already seen it? Okay. Sort of you got to go check it out. So it's done, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, and it's everything that was promised, I feel. We brought in an electrician to move the lights in cooperation with Carolyn and Lesher Facilities staff, so the piece is better lit but less harshly lit. So she was really working in that space, and it was important to move the lights out of the way, and we were able to accommodate. We want to give special appreciation, he's not here, but we really want to give a special thanks to Eric Mortensen on our staff. Eric, he really did, he was like on call through all hours regardless of his real schedule, and facilitated many aspects of this project. Was logistically pretty tricky and was really like the only real associate that she had on the project. He was really helping with that. So that was terrific. And also really big thanks to DRAA for helping us in pioneering this kind of relationship, partnering with us, funding the project and supporting the vision. I think that they are very happy. We're very happy about that. So everybody listening to this and watching is encouraged to visit it. It's in the plaza just off of Locust Street, and it really is an exquisite project. Mona has gone off to Europe, and she'll be back in June. At that time, we will try to get a plaque in between that time, and she'll be around for photo ops and stuff like that. So very pleased. Moving on other pending projects, you've approved the Walnut Creek BART Transit Village. We have very exciting news there. 2 public artworks are drawing to a close. The end of construction is tentatively scheduled for fall, which is when the art will debut, but actually it's going in earlier, which is a little unusual. So Aileen Barr is doing a mosaic tile project, and that has been installed already. There are risers on a wide staircase on Pringle Avenue. Then there is a paseo with a lot of benches you can sit on, and there's a tile borders on those. And the whole paseo ends in these huge planter benches with tile backs. They're immense, much bigger than I expected. So they're very great presence of the mosaic tile. And there will be plaques at both ends of this corridor of art. So no matter where you enter it, you'll get an idea what it is. I was fortunate to be able to go out on the construction site, and walk that with Aileen and with the consultant, Chandra. So that's pretty cool. That's in. I don't know if you can actually get to it, but you can see it from the street. And the other project is the mammoth stainless steel sculpture, the Bee Effect, which is the flowers and bees for the corner of Pringle Avenue in California. That will be going in tentatively by late May. Those are the artists, Brad Oldham and Christy Coltrane. We got a question from one commissioner about this, and I just wanted to point out that it is a whimsical and elusive project, and the flower it alludes to a poppy, but it's not a precise representation of that. And in fact, the plaque that's going in, I've approved text already, but it does not mention poppies. So it talks more about a seed blowing down from Mount Diablo. And the bees, by the way, are not proportionally sized either. So I wanted to move on to, we're facing a lot of issues with collection maintenance, and I wanted to address those. I know everybody's been concerned about the Veterans Memorial Plaza, so I don't know if you had a chance to look at it today. I think the renovation of the fountain basin and that work is done. I think there's a little bit of tweaking that has to happen still, but it's essentially done, which is great. That happened very quickly once it got bid out. The commission supported the renovation and voted funds from public art, and that was approved by council, but did ask for us to come back with a planting plan. So we will be returning to you with a tree plan and planting plan from the artist. The birch trees are largely dead. The grasses are very patchy. The artist proposes to replace birch with ginkgos, and there will be many fewer trees, which will help a lot, actually. These are drought-tolerant, pest-resistant, and there will be a new grass. But what we did do was bring the artist up. Cliff Garton came up, and we met with him here on site April 7th, and we met with our staff and the landscape supervisor and came to some agreements about the plant specimen and commitments of maintenance. So it was very helpful because our great guy, Mike Vickers here at the city, who oversees all of this and is very supportive of our art projects, had not been here when the project went in. So it was really great to touch base and everybody get on the same page about our commitments and what we want to see accomplished with it. So we will bring that back to you formally, and we've asked Cliff to attend. He'll probably be virtually attending, but he'll be coming to that meeting as well. Tentatively July, I'm not positive. Another maintenance issue is the Waterlight Plaza at the Lyric Development on the corner of Locust and Bonanza. The fountains are out, they're not working, and that, as you may know, that the arcs of the water in that are actually part of the artwork. And there's a mirror arcs of the tile, so they're very important to the entire project. There's also been some just concerns about upkeep of the plaza and some feeling a little bit of neglect about it. And there's planters that have plants that are either cut down or died out. So what we discovered is that ownership of the property has changed. The developer with whom we work most closely sold their ownership to the other partner. So we are working to reach out to them and just trying to verify their plans to restore the art in the plaza in general. Now, this is kind of the tip of the iceberg of a number of concerns we have about public artworks that have started to deteriorate that are privately funded. So I recently spoke with the director of community development, and we are working together really to see what our remedies are and possible enforcement policy on some of these things, especially for older works where, the property has changed hands, and the new owner may not honor or may not be aware that they have that responsibility. So we're working together to figure out the proper motivation to repair and restore those things, and trying to tackle it systematically. Another project is the Joyce Shoe dynos, and the green dyno there has had a lot of wear and tear on it. The consultant says they're too well loved. And it is kind of a chronic issue, particularly the big green dynos. So what happens with that is that it has two little dyno arms, and children pull on them and hang on them and stuff like that. There's been so they come to rest on these like thighs of the dyno, and the fiberglass of that surface has been cracked. So what they've done is they've made them fixed now so that you can't move the arm, which helps a little bit. And it was recently fenced off again, but I believe it's open again pretty much right after we asked about it, actually. I think they took down the fencing on it. And they continue to fine tune and try to perfect their maintenance of the work and look at various ways to protect it. But it is functional. It's being used right now. If you look at it, on one side, there's a little plate that has been put under one arm, but it isn't the same color as the body. So they have to kind of work with that. But in any case, it is being used again. We also there was a complaint about the concrete bench border around Fountainhead being dirty and stained. And we checked in again with a maintenance supervisor. We understand that benches, garbage cans, and other street furnishings are regularly checked, but then cleaned as needed. And when I checked on the Fountainhead, it looked like it had been cleaned up. It looked a little better. But when there are questions like that, you can always ask me, and I can refer it on, and we can see when the next maintenance is going to happen. And sometimes it gets triggered by concerns. One last thing is interesting that came up. I just learned today. About a year ago, I think it was, the commission approved a series of murals for the Ignacio Center commercial buildings, which I think are up where Maine and California meet. And this is an artist named Brian Alfred. You may remember there were a lot of landscapes, and there was like one project that was actually overhead and everything. So I was asking when those are going to come online, and was told by the consultant they may not at all happen because the developer ran into budget concerns, and they are waiting until they get the rest of the building painted, and they're going to revisit this question. So I said, well, it would be very disappointing after having gone through the process, though. They are not required murals, so they don't have to substitute something else necessarily, but we did go through the process and approve them, and I think there was a lot of support. So I understand that they should be deciding by July, so I've asked for an update, and I'll bring back an update to you all at that time. But anyway, I'm here for any questions you may have on any of those points.
Thank you for the update. Most of those are my questions. I really appreciate how thoroughly you addressed them. On the Veterans Memorial Plaza, for the trees, the city has got a new sustainability push going on, although there's not much mentioned in the plan about native plantings. Is our artist open to considering native plants and native trees to put in those instead of the birch?
To be native only to this area, you mean, or?
Yes, native to Contra Costa.
I don't know how open the artist is, to be honest with you, but the birch definitely need to go.
I agree.
They weren't. I think we all learned that they didn't work, right? And then they died off. So I think there's an agreement that we have to move on from that. We can definitely ask the artist if he would consider other natives.
He's a landscape
Ginkgos
architect. He's a landscape architect, so he definitely has
he is.
wherewithal to figure out the native plants. The birch trees were not a great idea even from the beginning, and 77 of them, or however many there were, is too many for that site. They are beautiful in the wintertime, though, when you don't see any deadness. Yeah, thank you for asking if you'd consider some native plants.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
The next report is on the Leisure Center strategic plan update.
Hello, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm Carolyn Jackson. I'm the interim general manager at the Lesher Center for the Arts. And some brief updates for you on our progress with the strategic plan that was presented to council on February 1st of this year. And since that point, we have also engaged with council's approval and extension of work with Michael Kaiser and the DeVos Institute to help us implement some of the actions in the plan. So at this juncture, we are getting very close to final selections for our 22-23 seasons. That includes the headliner artists as part of Lesher Center Presents, Center Reps season of 6 shows, and then the Bedford Gallery exhibitions as well. And we're planning to launch those seasons to the public on May 25th. So mark your calendars for your first chance at tickets for those events. And as we're developing that upcoming season, we're also starting to bank ideas, have conversations with some booking agents about 23-24 as we move towards a 3-year planning cycle. Of course, have to get the first year done first. We are also forming a committee to support the planning of a Festival of Latin Art in June of 2023. So that'll be a mixture of artists who will help us make some programming plans, and then also community leaders, business leaders who can join that committee. And we're forming that with the support of Mr. Kaiser and with DRAA recommending some folks for that as well. And then the programming committee was a big piece of the strategic plan, an opportunity for city staff alongside members of DRAA's board to do some long-range visioning about what programming at the Lesher Center can look like. So again, with Mr. Kaiser's support, we are starting to form up a pilot of that committee. We expect we'll start with a smaller group and then look to add additional DRA board members to that committee as time goes on, and to have some term limits and things in terms of determining when people will cycle off of that committee, when new openings will happen. But from the staff perspective, the representatives will be the Lesher Center General Manager, the Bedford Gallery Curator, and the future Center Rep Artistic Director. Another major part of our plan is really enhancing our partnership with our cornerstone producers. And so Mr. Kaiser held a series of listening sessions with them over the last couple of weeks, and is giving us a proposal in terms of what he would recommend moving forward, both for defining what a cornerstone producer is and for what the partnership or what the benefits of being a cornerstone producer would be. But one of the immediate actions that we were able to take was to institute an advanced booking window for those producers so that they have access to the booking calendar 1 year in advance of other rental clients, so that they can get their season selections in. Many of them work with international artists and guest artists and need that time to know, what are the dates that we're targeting so they can get those other plans in place. On the marketing front, we've been working very closely between Bedford Gallery, DRAA, Center Rep, Lesher Center on a new website, which, fingers crossed, is launching May 25th for our season announcement. We have a lot of work to get there, but we're excited about the new look. So you'll see a new look for lesherartcenter.org by end of May, and then there will also be a refresh coming to the Bedford Gallery site. But we are, taking a little more time on that piece and expect that to be probably late June before we see that refresh site. And as part of that, we've done some refresh and modernization of our logos so that all 4 organizations have logos that kind of speak to one another, look like they belong together. They're not matching each other necessarily, but when you see them side by side, you see that they make sense together. So we'll be slowly unveiling those over the next month as we lead up to the season announcement. And then on the fundraising side of things, we're again, for the season announcement, there's a lot going on for May 25th, launching a new membership program. So donors who support DRAA and as a result support our programs at the Lesher Center will have access to certain benefits, on a tiered structure that encompasses all of the programming that we offer. So there'll be a little mix of benefit that includes Bedford Gallery. It includes, performance experiences. It includes, the chance to get early access to purchase tickets, things like that. So we're developing that program now, working very closely with Peggy and her team so that we can launch that alongside of the May 25th season announcement. And that's my updates on the strategic plan. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Carolyn?
Carolyn, can you just clarify what festival? Is it a Latin arts festival?
Yes,
Thank you.
we haven't named it yet, but yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Next item is staff announcements and brief reports on activities.
I'm looking at my colleagues. We can start, actually, Carolyn, if you're still on, is there anything you wanted to share? Thank you. You went off, now you come back.
Sure, I should have just stayed on. So from the center rep side of things, our town is currently playing through May 7th. It's been quite a challenge to get this show up. We've had a few stops and starts, but the cast has been really resilient and wonderful. And having seen the show last Friday, it's a beautiful piece. Really well done. And so I recommend, if you don't have your tickets yet, get them, because May 7th will be here before we know it. And then the next production will be Beehive, the 60s musical. Previews for that start May 27th, and the cast has started rehearsal this week. So we're excited to move to that next phase of our productions. And then for our headliner series, that's in partnership with DRAA and sort of the forerunner to what Lesher Center Presents will be. This weekend, we have Dance Theater of Harlem. Their 2 nights are sold out. We are super excited about the response that we're receiving to bringing this nationally, internationally known, dance company to Walnut Creek. And we are in discussion with them about the potential for a return next season. And then on May 6th is the Joey Alexander Trio. Joey Alexander is an 18-year-old jazz phenom. He's garnered a ton of awards. He's a very expressive player. He's a pianist, and he brings with him, 2 members that make up his trio. And so if you are a jazz fan, I recommend you join us on May 6th.
Thanks, Carolyn. I don't know if Miley Ogasawara Garcia has anything to add. If not, we'll go to Emily.
Good evening, Arts Commissioners. Emily Enders, Curator at Bedford Gallery. Just a couple of updates. That Forced to Flee is up until June 19th. I think I've seen almost every single one of you there, so I appreciate your support. If you haven't had a chance to visit yet, it's a quilt exhibition of 36 highly personal art quilts that explore the reasons why people are forced to leave their homes. So it couldn't have really opened at a more timely moment in the history of what's going on in the world, and it's very impactful in that way. So we have 2 events that we're hoping to schedule before the show closes. One is a dance performance that I'm thrilled to partner with Carolyn on. It will be a Lesher Center Presents event, and then the second one will be a meditation for peace. So stay tuned for dates on those. I'm going to save our summer show for our season announcement, but that will open June 30th, so mark your calendars. And then I just wanted to give a quick update on some public art walking tours that happened last Thursday, thanks to Jane Emanuel, Jill Dresser, and Carol Fowler. The Waymark Group asked us to partner with their marketing team to put a series of public art walking tours together for a group of about 75 people. And they chose us, and they chose Walnut Creek to highlight our visual arts program and also our public art walking tours. So Jane had a chance to talk with one of the marketing people, and he said that when they came to Walnut Creek in August, October, they were just blown away by the breadth that we had to offer. So special thanks to our docents for that. It rained a little bit, but I think everyone had a great time.
I'm going to give Miley one more chance. If not, I will step in. Just a couple things then from me. These are more process. I think you've all been invited to a meeting tomorrow, a joint meeting with the Park, Rec, and Open Space Commission, where you can hear from the city manager talking about quality of life issues, potentially the council's consideration of a sales tax measure in November, which would be up for discussion. So if you can all be there, that'd be great. It's upstairs at 6 o'clock. Well, 6 o'clock, yeah. 6 o'clock tomorrow. So right back in the same place. And then for some of you, this Friday is the mayor and mayor pro tem's breakfast, where they hear from the commission chairs and vice chairs. I think, Ann, you're available for that. I don't know, Glennis, you're there? Okay. So we'll have one representative, which is fine. So we can talk. If I know you've been taking notes about things you can share. And then I just want to echo what you heard from Carolyn and Emily. If you haven't seen Our Town, please do so. I was there on Friday as well for Our Town, which is just a great production. And then Forced to Flee, Emily's right, this is very timely. So if you or your friends or family or neighbors haven't seen it, it's very meaningful at this time. So I encourage you to do that. So that'll conclude staff presentations, and then I do want to say something before we adjourn about somebody.
All right, commissioners' announcements and brief reports on activities. Any of the commissioners want to make any announcements, or?
I thought I was getting trained to tour public art in downtown on our Saturday public art walking tours. And I had a meeting with Jane and a few other docents and learned I was doing a Thursday night tour for the Waymark Group. Jane Emanuel put so much time into this tour. Thank you very much, Jane. Making sure that that our 3 groups of 25, that were going to be 25 people each, never ran into each other at any one piece of art in the city. So I crossed paths with one other docent at the Duncan Arcade, but it worked out great. The people that came on our tour were super interesting. A lot of young couples were on the tour, and then a few older people, and they really want to see the art in Walnut Creek. So I'm thrilled that the word has gotten out about our public art. And I think these people paid money to do this. Is that true? They paid money to do this. So kudos to Emily and Jane for making this all happen.
Well, one correction, the meeting tomorrow is at 5 o'clock. So whoever said 5 o'clock is right. Whoever said 6, me, is wrong. So thank you for that correction. Before we adjourn, I understand that one of your commissioners, fellow commissioners, may be having her last meeting tonight. And that's Glennis. And I was talking to staff, but do we want to close the meeting and then do something? No, I want to do this in public so that those who are watching can see and hear about all the good things that Glennis has done for the community, for this commission, for this department, and for me personally, through multiple terms as commissioner, helping us guide the Public Art Master Plan to fruition, the strategic plan for the master plan. Your work on the foundation, the Community Arts Foundation, has been super important and meaningful. And your support for public art and your support for your fellow commissioners and for staff has been, personally, it meant a lot. And I've told you that I told Glennis, we often think as we're making presentations, how would Glennis respond to this? How would she react in a positive way? Because you've been our benchmark of how we present. And so I'm going to let some of your fellow commissioners speak too, and former commissioners. And we have a gift from staff. Emily, if you wouldn't mind coming up, to present to you as a small token of our appreciation for the work that you've done. And as Emily's walking up, this will be on behalf of all the staff of the Arts and Rec Department, but specifically the Public Art Program staff, whose work we do would not have been as successful it is without you. And so thank you so much. So Emily's presenting one of our public art walking tour signs. To Emily, move over to the side just a little bit so we can see it on. There you go. So that's Glennis Cowdery, Arts Commissioner, Public Art Walking Tour sign. So thank you, Glennis. Well, your fellow commissioners, I think, want to say something first, and maybe someone from the public wants to start with that. You got to come up here, though.
Jane Emanuel again. So Glynis and I first met in 2012 when we were both appointed to this commission. We had never run into each other before, which is pretty amazing. And not only have we worked greatly together, but we've become good friends too. And I will miss you so much, and I appreciate so much what you have done for this community and the care and the thoughtfulness which you make every comment and keep me on the straight and narrow too. So we have a few things for you.
It's really hard to believe it's been 10 years. And it's definitely been an interesting journey from learning about how a city works and so much about public art. Who knew? I feel really privileged that I was able to work with such amazing staff, both present and previous staff, to develop an amazing public art program. Just a few highlights for me were seeing the Hand of Peace in Civic Park. The revision of the public art master plan, who knew that was going to take freaking forever? The creation of the strategic plan, the public art project review sheet was another thing that we worked really hard as a team to get together, which I think has helped all of us and will certainly help the new commissioners as they review pieces. The self-guided public art app is a great addition to people that can't make it to the docent-guided tours. Being part of the rebound committee during COVID, folding 1,000 butterflies and, 1,000 cranes and 500 butterflies, and then helping Jane hang up all the art bombs around town. That was, who would have guessed? And then finally the mural program. I mean, it's just amazing to see how far it's come. And then I think my favorite piece right now is Balsam Root that we just talked about previously, created by Mona Karen. It's just so magical. And of course, when you do anything for 10 years, there will be frustrations and projects that don't turn out the way one would hope, but luckily we're not going to reflect on those now. I'm excited to see where the staff and the commissioners will take things from here, and I plan to keep an eye on the public art program and look forward to coming back to visit, especially when the signature piece is realized, wherever that will be. Thank you.
I'm going to add one more thing, which is thank you to John for 10 years of allowing us to use Glynis's expertise and time and talents. Really, that means a lot to us. That sometimes we'd keep her late here when you'd had plans for dinner, and so sorry
Yet
about
again.
that. Probably tonight. But thank you, John, and thank you, Glynis, so much.
I'd like to echo all the nice things people have said about you. You made my job so much easier when I first got on the commission, so I really appreciate your comments, and I loved working with you on the Public Art Committee, and I just wish you all the great luck on a brand-new adventure.
Glynis, your shoes are not going to be filled. I thank you for already how much you've given me, and I've only had my first meeting, so thank you very much. I hope you end up on the Art Commission up in Bainbridge Island. Yeah, you need to. Thank you.
If there's nothing else, we're adjourned.